10 minutes past 8. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Mr. Ben Onuora joins us now. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Let's start off with this argument about deploying military for the elections and what the Constitution says, even the previous court judgments. I mean, we heard Professor Chidi Kalu talking about, look, no judge will come out there and protect you on that day. That he suggests, look, we shouldn't go about manufacturing laws, tailoring them to elections. About those judgments that were given, what's your analysis of that judgment vis-a-vis Section 218?
Well, I think it's a dangerous suggestion to say that people should ignore court judgments. The Court of Appeal is the second in the hierarchy of courts in Nigeria. Therefore, when it makes a pronouncement, we should take it seriously. And I want to say that I listened to Professor Dinkalo. The conventions he mentioned, we have to presume that those conventions were canvassed as arguments before the court came to a conclusion.
Because he said it was independent of the Nigerian government. So maybe, even though somebody else canvassed it, it was canvassed in court.
You see, the law is that each party is allowed through his lawyer to canvass all the positions that will assist in this case. We must presume that the lawyers who handle this case at the appeal court level canvass these positions before the Court of Appeal.
So, are you talking about the cases determined with the Federal High Court, Sokoto, Court of Appeal here, or the conventions, Abuja, Geneva Conventions?
You see, the Geneva Convention is a law applicable in Nigeria. Therefore, in making a point before the court, whether to deploy the military or not deploy the military during elections, we have to presume that the lawyers to the party involved canvass those positions and brought those laws to the attention of the court. So if at the end of the day, the court was of the view that in spite of those conventions, in spite of all the laws, that the military should not be involved in elections, that is the law. We have no right as citizens, even as presidents, to sit down and say, no, we don't like the judgment. There are constitutional means of challenging judgments. You can go to the Supreme Court. You can even ask for stay of proceedings or stay of execution of that judgment. But so long as that judgment is in place, it's not been set aside, it's not been stayed, it remains the law. And it behoves all of us, including the president, to obey that law.
Okay, but let us look at Section 218, talking about, because some people say that the courts cannot be ruling outside the Constitution, and the provisions of the Constitution gives the president discretion in terms of how to deploy the military. Do you think this was also taken into consideration? And if it was, how do you think the courts arrived at that conclusion?
You see, the courts don't make laws. They merely interpret the laws. It's the duty of the courts to interpret the Constitution. However, even the interpretation, when you get the judgment, there are ways you go about the execution in a way that you do not disobey the court order. For example, the court says don't deploy the military for elections. It does not say that if we have violence on a scale that is beyond the regular police, that the military cannot come in. What I think that judgment says is it should not be a part of our political culture that on election day, you see soldiers with various forms of ammunition moving about the streets. You can keep them in a combat-ready position so that if should any situation arise warranting their use, you can rapidly deploy them to quell those situations. But not that the ammunition, you make them the first port of call. No. Indeed, this democracy will be imperiled if we continue to act as if we cannot survive without having soldiers rule our lives. I respect Nigerian military very much, but it's in the interest of the nation that they are insulated as much as possible from taking on tasks traditionally meant for the police. And the argument they pose, is that the police is not well equipped. And the question is, why are they not well equipped? Why don't we have enough personnel? Under the military, we're told they didn't want police to be well equipped so that they could not act as a counter force during coups. This is a civilian regime. Why can't we equip the police to do their traditional duties?
All right, this judgment also applies in the Northeast.
Yes. Well, let me say this. In the Northeast, as it is, there is war. There is war. So if you find the military on the streets, they are there primarily to contain the war that is already raging in the Northeast. In my state, Imo, there is no war. In many states, the South, even also, there is no war. So there is no reason to deploy military men on election day. But when you have war already, it makes sense. You cannot say it's for election. It is to contain the ongoing war. So it must make that distinction.
Your analysis, interpretation is that, yes, we can deploy the military in the Northeast for the elections, but not in another part of the country.
See, not for the elections strictly. You deploy them to continue with their peacekeeping operations or their combat operations that they are doing already anyway.
But that's by extension for the election.
Oh yes, that's just incidental. The primary job they are doing right now in the Northeast is to contain Boko Haram. And you can't suspend that work they are doing because of election. It must continue. Because once you lower your guards, these guys will come.
So
that's the danger of the nations.
Some people also say that, you know, sometimes what is on the ground is quite different from what we have in our constitution. Like, we have extraordinary circumstances, and we know the reality is that ideally our police people should be up to the task, but the reality is that they're not exactly up to the task. And so we need these people to ensure that, you know, lives and property is safe on election day. Is it really, can we really afford to abide by this court judgment?
You see, my position is that it is not within our rights to say a particular judgment is not good and therefore will not abide by it. I have said to you that the president has the constitutional duty under Section 218 to deploy troops. The difference I have with those who canvass for the other side is that, yes, you can have those troops in combat-ready position. So if the police fails or is incapable of adequately protecting civilians, you quickly bring them in. That's how it's done elsewhere. Even in America, when you have the police unable to carry out or to contain particular violence, as you saw in Ferguson, you call the National Guard.
But this is, we're talking about insurgents. If a suicide bomber were to go there, are we going to wait until the police cannot foil it and then they detonate before calling the military?
You see, in this nation today, certain areas have not witnessed even one single bomb blast since the insurgency started. Those areas are peaceful. I'm not saying they should not be protected.
But we don't know the level of intelligence out there about those states and what they're doing about it.
We do not know, but I'm saying that the entire nation is not involved in civil war. Certain sections are involved. And with the rapid advances of our military in recent times, which I commend, it's clear that this is now contained within a particular geographical location, not the entire nation.
Let me get you straight. Yes. You're of the opinion, based on Section 218,
Correct,
that gives the president the powers to deploy troops to any part of the country. That's a given. But for election purposes, you're saying that we can station the military on a standby mode pending what happens with the other security agencies like the police during elections. Is that what you're canvassing?
Correct.
And constitutionally, that is what should be.
Absolutely. You see, because in quelling insurrection, in quelling violence, the Constitution does not say the type that the military should be involved in. Any kind of violence, insurrection that is beyond the capacity of the police, the president has a right to bring the military to stop that.